Hello everyone, how are you doing today? I trust you're having a good day. So we're moving on to 2 Samuel 19 today, and I think I prefer doing character studies. I think I learned a lot, and of course learn in between the interactions between characters. So today I want to focus on a couple of characters. My focus will really be on Mephiboseth. Ziba will get a mention here, and Shimei will start talking about him, but we won't finish his case in this video. So let's start with Joab. Special mention. So the chapter starts with David going to cry for his son Absalom that died. There was a lot of emotions there. His son had died. It's okay. I think it's okay. And then Joab comes to him and is like, Mr. King, you can, as in, we've all put our lives on the line for you and all of that, and all you can care about is your son that has died. Yeah, maybe David probably overdid it. Yeah, fine. But I think that Joab could have been more gentle in his speech. And this one is for those of us that insist that we are blunt and we cannot speak kindly to others. I think you can find a way. The Bible says we should speak the truth in love. Joab did not do that. I'm not saying that David was totally blameless in that, but Joab could have done better. We are still counting. Joab's copy is feeling, because yes, he had a point, but how did he present it to his boss? How do you talk to your boss? When you find your boss in a place of weakness, do you take advantage of it and just talk anyhow? You need to think about that. So, let's go to the main characters I want to focus on today: Mephiboseth and Ziba. So here we get to hear Mephibosheth's side of the story. So he says that he was, because he was lame, he asked Ziba to saddle his donkey for him so that he could come meet David. First of all, let's even step back a bit. David asked him. He got the privilege of being asked his own side of the story. And I believe that it's because he was Jonathan's son majorly. So there was a covenant relationship between David and Mephibosheth's father that Mephibosheth was still enjoying years after his dad had died. So I want to focus a bit on that. What are we building for our kids? Can our kids get that kind of privilege? Even in death, Jonathan was still speaking for his son, or the things that Jonathan had done was still speaking for his son Mephibosheth, even in death. So the question to us is, what legacy are we building that even in death our children will get to enjoy it? Mephibosheth got to tell his own side of the story because of the covenant relationship that David had with Jonathan. Nothing else, no other reason. Anyway, so Mephibosheth got to tell his own side of the story. And one thing that stood out to me was that his lameness was an issue. Yes, he got to sit at the king's table and enjoy whatever it is that comes with being at the king's table. But there was a time that his lameness still limited him. He was still, what they call it. So that you get to see me now. I'm the one sitting in here. Yeah, you can make out my face. I'm sitting. Anyway, so let's continue our conversation. So, Mephibosheth got to tell his own side of the story. His lameness was the reason why Ziba could do whatever it is he did. We are assuming that Mephibosheth was telling the truth. I hope he was, but eventually, because of his lameness, he eventually had to share his possessions with his servant. And that brings me to the point, what is that thing that we have not addressed? Some of us, we've started making a lot of money, we started making millions, we started doing stuff, but we have not addressed the lameness that took us to Lodiba in the first place. We haven't. And so even in all, I don't know how to say this one now that doesn't come across as being funny. Okay, so yeah, let's continue our conversation. Sorry, I had to take the train. So I was saying that whatever it is you have not addressed, that thing that took you to Lodiba and you didn't address it, and you got called to the king's table, you're eating, you're enjoying, that day will come when it will still come back for you, because it was still that lameness that held Mephibosheth back. Eventually, he had to share his possessions with Ziba. But I think I also like the Mephibosheth's response to David. It was like that: you are the king. Do whatever you consider to be okay. And I think that's the best he could have done at that time. Some people may have a different opinion. They may think that, oh, he could have pressed for that and all of that, but I think that was the best he could have done at that time. He couldn't have contested anything, because he got to tell his own side of the story only because he was Jonathan's son. That was the only reason why he was able to speak. So, and then let's go to Ziba. I hope Ziba was happy with himself, assuming he was lying. But if he was telling the truth, well, at least he still got half of the property. So I think David was fair in this judgment. I think he was fair because all the time you used to now go and investigate. Mephiboseth, you say now you they talk to Ziba, is it you? He just was like, you know, you guys just share the property. And I think that was the best that could have been done at the time. Otherwise, they would have invested a lot. And I mean, this guy is just coming from being in exile. I think we should cut him some slack. And that's why I think Joab was unnecessarily harsh to him. Anyway, so let's go on to Shimei. I'm happy that we got to talk about him in this chapter, but we are still going to meet him further down the line. So after running his mouth, when he saw David was had gone into exile, he was throwing stones at him. He was mocking him. And that comes to many of us, because it's easy for us to look at Shimei and say, oh, this one, you too do. But there's many of us. We see people that are down and out, and then we begin to ask them, oh, did you not pay tithe? Yeah, about a friend of mine, she was telling me that when I think it was her sister, anyway, when her sibling died, she used to go to that church that gave Elon Musk the top partner something. You know that church. So they came to her and they were asking her that, is it that your sister was not faithful with her tithes and offering? Is that why she died? And it's not an isolated event. And in fact, one of the guys, well, I used to go to that church before anyway. And one of the guys that I met there, and eventually I left, I saw him at some point, and he was telling me that his wife had died and left him with 2 children, and that she died. And the next thing he said broke my heart. He was like, did I not give enough? Was I not faithful in my tithe? That's a whole conversation where we've raised people to think that they can make God do things by their seed. I don't think that was what God intended. Anyway, let's go back to the story I'm telling. So, you're there. People are going through stuff in life. Sometimes maybe because of what they did, and sometimes maybe not. And the only thing you can bring out in your own mind and mouth is to ask them, did you pay tithe? Who are you serving? You are not serving Jehovah. You are not. Just let's settle it. You are not serving Jehovah. You are serving Mammon. Yeah, that's it. Let's be clear. Anyway, back to Shimei. So Shimei saw David at his lowest and at his worst, and he thought that was the time for him to tell lies against him, really, because he was saying stuff about David stealing the throne from King Saul. Everyone knew that God gave David that kingdom. It was something God gave David. And Shimei just misrepresented facts when someone was already down and low. What do we do to people when we see them down and low? Do we begin to taunt them? Is that the time we begin to talk about, hey, my enemy, God has caught my enemy. It was the same David that wrote in Psalms that my enemy, do not rejoice over me, because if I fall 7 times, I will still rise again. But now you go collect, because you are the one that is talking anyhow. So when you see people that are going through stuff, it's not your time. It's not time for you to begin to talk anyhow. And it happens to even the best of us. Someone that I hold in high esteem learned that someone died, and that day I was shook. And the one thing that this person that I hold in high esteem was able to talk about were the shortcomings of the person that died. I thought it was in bad taste, but I didn't feel like it was in my place to talk about it. And so I moved. I did not partake of that conversation, but maybe I should have spoken up. Maybe that's something I should have done better. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think I should have done at that time? But anyway, I'm happy I did not speak the way Shimei spoke, because you see someone down and out and you're talking anyhow. Then and some other characters in there, Abishai and Amasa, the sons of Zeruiah, they were just for violence. Joab, Abishai is like they were just born for violence. They are the patron kings of violence. Abishai was like, let's kill this Shimei. What are we doing? Kill him with a good job. But David was like, these sons of Zeruiah, what is this? You people are violence. Calm down. Calm down. So for those of us that say peace is a crime, that peace is not an option, this one is for you. Peace is always an option. There is always a time to show mercy. At the time David was coming back from exile, that was not the time to kill Shimei. Shimei will still collect. The one person that I really wished collected that did not collect was Ziba. But that's assuming he was lying. But I can understand why he didn't collect. But don't worry, you guys, trust your guy David. He knows what to do with Shimei. And so he went on, and then the tribes now started fighting. I'm like, see, fight. I let Amasa. I didn't see anything in Amasa that I thought was not comely. Because Amasa, I used to think before that Amasa was related to Joab, but he wasn't. He was from another tribe, and he was from another side of the family. And Amasa spoke wisely. So I would like to be pointing out the people that did wisely. He went to speak with the tribes of other tribes of Israel to tell them, bring David back. He was the one that started the gist though. Then they now finally, I think Amasa went to speak to the men of Judah. Yeah. And after they went to call the men of Judah, you people that did not go with him for when he went on exile, they now started quarreling. We have part in David. We don't have part in David. Everybody loves success. The same people that went with Absalom, when David came back, they were now trying to overdo to prove their allegiance that he did not prove when he was at the critical time. So as someone that goes through adversity and comes out, not the people that were with you when you were during your time of adversity, but the thing is that they cannot all be the only people you will deal with. So you need to exhibit some level of wisdom. There will come a time when you have to bury the hatchet, find people that you can still talk to and work with, but be wise. Oh, don't forget the people that were there for you when they were there for you, but don't let them also use it to blackmail you. Because I perceive that eventually, when we talk more about Joab, I'll be talking about Joab as he shows up. But Joab's matter requires a lot of conversation and thought. I'd love to hear from you. Let me hear what you think. Thank you very much for listening.